I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, can I have roll call, please, Cindy?
Counselor Blevins,
Here.
Counselor Dolezal,
Here.
Counselor McElroy,
Here.
Counselor Metcalf,
Here.
Counselor Prokop, here, Counselor Tenbush,
Here.
Mayor Drinkling.
Here, thank you very much for that. Before we get to the work session here, that we want to take some time out and wish our fellow counselor good luck as she leaves us to do bigger and better things. She's been wonderful to have on here and a whole different perspective on what it is we're doing here in Estacada. And she represents a lot of people. And we all care about her very much. And she's come a long way from when she first got here. And I really appreciate her. And I know everybody here does as well. So we'd like to just wish her good luck. And we have some cake in the back of the room here that we want to celebrate. And if you'll please join us for that, you can have some cake in the back of the room before we continue on. And do you have something you want to present to her? Or
Kind of did that informally. Do you have it with you? We had a little, I guess I should have done it more formally, but we have a little appreciation, kind of a plaque to say, thank you for serving on the council. We really appreciate the work that you've put in and we'll miss you when you're gone. And if your work schedule ever changes back, maybe it'll run again sometime.
Thank you. All right, I'll give you a few minutes to go get some cake and enjoy that before we move along here.
Or we could,
Want to just move
we
along?
could just, yeah, we could just go ahead and move on, but feel free to help yourself if you're getting, I know we're going to work right through dinner here. I didn't bring any dinner food in, but there is cake if you need a little something to keep you going. So it's for folks in the audience or any of us too. So.
Okay, great. So we'll go right into the work session then. A GMP discussion with Sladen and Kennedy Jenks, the wastewater treatment plant. So I will let you take it away. You're gonna fill us in.
All right. Is that on? Nope. Okay. Of course not.
Try
No, all
that.
right. In the packet, there's, we have, a summary of the guaranteed maximum price. So we're going to talk a lot about GMP tonight. For anybody who is listening, it stands for guaranteed maximum price. And it's kind of it's an alternate to a low bid, because if you bid the whole project out, the goal is people will minimize to get to the lowest bid possible, because they want to win the bid award. And then if things change or there's things that maybe were overlooked, then you have change orders and and then it goes up from there. This is a guaranteed maximum price. And so as we're going to talk about it, we've built in contingency. We have some allowances for things that were uncertain, and we'll go over all those details. Most of the details. I feel like this is like when you're in math class and you get to the answer, and I'm excited about our answer. We were very excited Friday afternoon with the answer we finally had worked our way to. And then the teacher said, now you need to show your work. So I feel like this is where we show our work. We're going to pull the curtain back a little bit and show what this team has been working on for months, especially the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, very hard to get this to a good number, the best process, the best thing that we can do for Estacada. And so we're going to show our work. And I know some people, when you go through all those details, it can be either overwhelming or it can be confusing, or you can head down rabbit trails because you're really into the details and you want to dig deeper on this. And so we're going to try and answer all the questions that we can answer, and just show how we've worked through this process to get to where we're at tonight. So we have Keith and Eric. Rob actually moved on to a different opportunity. And so Keith is going to be with us. I'm not sure if you met Keith before. So Keith and Eric from Sladen, and then Sean is here from Kennedy Jenks, and Chris is here. He's been deeply involved in this whole process, weighing in whenever, like, okay, do you think this is what we think? Chris, how do you think when you're, boots on the ground running the place? How's it going to work? So that's why he is here tonight also. And I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you for having us. So we wanted to get into the presentation a little bit. This is a workshop, so feel free to ask questions. Stop me if you don't understand something. Like, I'm really bad about acronyms. So if you don't know what something means, please stop me. I want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about. So we got a little presentation. It's only about 13 slides, so it's not huge. So we'll jump right in. Okay, so like Melanie mentioned, this is the guaranteed maximum price review. So quick agenda of what we wanted to walk through. So a quick design refresher, not going into a lot of detail because it looks the same as last time we presented to you. The proposed GMP, we wanted to talk through some of the contingencies and allowances. And then we wanted to recap some of the value engineering. We had a couple items that didn't pan out the way we thought they were going to. So we wanted to discuss those with you. The price comparison from 60% when we presented the number to you last time compared to now, and kind of the impacts we saw from then to the pricing we're presenting to you today. We wanted to go through the outreach efforts that we did and the results we received back, kind of show you how those went. A little bit of a value engineering update because we did another round of value engineering after we received bids. And then present kind of the final schedule for construction, basically from today through completion of the facility. And then there's this city's prepared a rate study at the end. All right.
So getting into the design refresher, I mean, it's the same treatment plant that we showed you in March. Not much has changed. Thanks. You put me on the spot with this thing. The red button. Don't look at it, Keith. So this is the headworks. All the flow from the city comes into this first, right? We're piping over from the existing treatment plant. There's a pump station that's flush with the grade here. So that pump station feeds the membrane bioreactor. Membrane bioreactor is the secondary treatment for the plant. So there's 4 stages. We're outfitting 3 of those 4 stages now. And that should handle the flow for well into the future, more than 10 years. That 4th cell would be populated at some point in the future. The reason we do that is because the membranes have an expiration date. We don't want to utilize or install capacity that we don't need right away. So then you get fresh membranes when you need it. It's kind of in the middle of the plant here is the electrical and solids processing building and the maintenance shop. And then this tank off to the right is the digester building. There's some odor control here with a biofilter. It'd be filled with media and wood chips to control the odors. And then the admin building is off to the right here. It's a pretty basic admin building with a laboratory, quite a bit more space than the guys have now. So those are the improvements.
Any questions?
I think we're okay right now.
It's exactly what we presented to you last time. So,
Uh,
okay. So to jump straight to it, I know the numbers are a little small there, but we want to just present the total cost for the GMP. So on the right-hand side there is the full cost report cost summary that has the cost of works, the fees. We're going to talk about contingencies and allowances, bonds, insurance, Oregon corporate activities tax, and then the previous 2 contracts we have already signed, getting to a total proposed contract for Sladen of $57,260,457. So this number, we wanted to point out a couple things, and then we're going to kind of talk through the rest of it. So the first thing I want to make sure you understood is the value engineering we're going to present later on. We have already reviewed it with city staff, and we believe it's acceptable, and we've incorporated that savings, that additional $430,000 into this price proposal. We've got the list, I think it's about 15 items in the back that we can walk through and make sure that you feel the same way. But we did incorporate that already. Allowances and contingencies, we wanted to hit a couple of the big ones here. So the first one is an allowance for what we call 100% design progression or evolution. So that is because the documents we priced are 90% design. So they're a really good set of documents, but they're not 100% done. And there typically is, additional details. It still has to go through permitting. There's going to be changes that happen. So we've priced the 90% documents that we have today with a healthy amount of Q&A and review and any of the things we can incorporate from that review process. And then any of the changes that happen between now and the 100%, we have put an allowance in here to cover those costs. The one thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is allowance and contingencies are the city's money. They are set aside within our contract, but that money is the city's and you have to authorize use of it. So what will happen is when we get 100% design documents, we'll compare the 90s to the hundreds. We do overlays in Bluebeam so you can kind of see the changes visually. Use red and green, and then it's black if it's the same, green if it's deleted, red if it's added. So it's on us to show to the city that these are the changes, quantify the changes, and get the city's approval to access any of that money. So that is the design evolution allowance, and we have that at 2.5% of the cost of work, which is the $1,140,000. The next one is the construction contingency. So it's labeled as CMGC contingency on the right. So we have that at 5% of contract value. So this is during the course of construction, things that come up that we can't foresee right now. But if you've been involved in construction, whether at your house or any project, you know that things come up. So this is the contingency that's set aside to deal with those things as they come up during the course of construction. And again, this is money that belongs to the city. It is set aside for a specific purpose. We have to bring a proposal to the city that says this is an authorized use of it. This is the impact of it. And the city has to approve spending of those funds. So in the CMGC process, those are typically carried within the contract so that you're not going back for individual change orders every time there's a change to the documents. So that's one of the kind of nice things about CMGC is you can put those aside. It's the city's money within the contract to authorize use to pay for things instead of doing change orders. The third item that we want to talk about was the tariff allowance. So a lot of things have happened in the last 6 months. And one of those is tariffs, which is an evolving topic. So when we bid this out, we had to tell bidders what to assume. When we received bids, things were changing weekly. And so as we presented, or I think Melanie and Elena presented to you earlier, we issued some language directing them to include a couple tariffs that have been on the books for a while and exclude the tariffs that were changing more frequently so that we could get stable pricing. And that language is incorporated into our contract. So we know exactly which tariffs are included in our bids and what percentage those are and what is not. Through the course of construction, when we place orders and the materials from overseas come into the country, those vendors will be owed compensation for the actual tariffs that they realize, and they have to prove that to us at the time the goods enter into the country. So those transactions, there will be many of them that, ranging in size, and those vendors are going to want to be paid those in a timely manner because they'll have goods sitting at the port. So we recommend carrying an allowance within our contract that the city can authorize with proof to be able to pay those vendors so we don't have holdups in shipping from any of the goods that are coming from overseas due to tariffs. Keep going. So that construction GMP, the 57,260 that we mentioned there, when we presented the number at the 60%, there was also a budget carried for Kenny Jenks's services during construction for their review of submittals and questions and oversight, code required inspections, those types of things. So that number at GMP, it's not completely finalized. Sean can talk about that a little, but it's currently estimated at $2.4 million for a total projected price of $59,660,000. And I guess there is a blurb right there about what's in Kenny Jenks' number, the engineering special inspections.
Yep,
Just go ahead, Mike.
quick question. If a tariff impacts a global market, something that's being sourced domestically, how is that accounted for? Like, say, for instance, a steel tariff got increased that impacted the global market. And so domestic steel that we're sourcing everything we can domestically, those prices go up. Is there an opening for them to be compensated for that? Or is it just things that are sourced internationally that are impacted by tariffs?
That's a very good question. It's not explicitly spelled out in there, but that is an impact of the tariffs. So we would say that, again, they have to prove that impact. But yeah, we do see people making claims for domestic materials due to market impacts from tariffs because it winds up affecting their business and they get, price increase letters from factories, those types of things for,
Got it.
for accounting for that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But the burden is on the vendor to prove it to us, to our satisfaction, to be able to pay them for it, but.
Okay.
One of the things I think that's in Kenny Jenks' number that wasn't before that we should mention is they now have this code required special inspections in their contract. And then archaeological monitoring was a new one as well. So through some of the permitting reviews, archaeological monitoring is now required to some degree. So that will be a consultant under KJ's contract overseeing some of the excavation.
We're negotiating with the State Historic Preservation Office to kind of minimize that inspection. So hopefully that cost will end up being a little lower, but we're expressing the lower amount in our 2.4 estimate. And then we're carrying the special inspections subcontractor. So the ones coming out and testing the concrete, inspecting the rebar, making sure that compaction's met for gravel and things like that. And those are building department required inspections. So we have to do those. So we're carrying that.
This might be a dumb question, but so say we're excavating and we do find a artifact or several artifacts. The state then sends somebody out to inspect the area, or what happens there?
The archaeologists will develop a plan. They call it an inadvertent discovery plan. And it details the steps that are taken to kind of preserve the artifact, and if there's any additional excavation that needs to be done to identify other objects before construction continues. But sometimes the state will send somebody out, sometimes they won't.
Okay.
My guess is they wouldn't unless it was.
And the cost of that is reflected in this, the possibility of a cost for, whatever that would be. Is that reflected in this number?
It would probably, the big cost would end up being a standby cost. And so that would be unanticipated. It'd be like a change in conditions. And then the contingency would attempt to cover that.
Yeah, we had a job where we had full-time monitoring, kind of like we're trying to get a little less monitoring here, but we had 6 discoveries. And so it was a matter of our crews are trained on it. And then there's somebody there, then you deal with what you find there locally, and then they watch you do the rest of it. And you just keep progressing with oversight.
I just, I don't want this job to be held up by a, 50-year-old Coke can that gets unearthed, I understand if it's a, arrowhead or, something native that, that we find, but I just don't want the job to be held up by a, piece of garbage.
Yeah, we don't
Yes.
either. So
The 50-year-old rule is, it's rough.
What does that look like exactly? Just screening of a certain amount of percentage of material for every cubic yard that's moved, or what is the requirement for the special inspection?
That's part of the details are still being hammered out, but typically it's just they watch you dig. They don't actually sift through it or anything like that. They're just looking for signs that there could have been something there, and then if they suspect something, they can make you do more. There was some talk about having to put scoops on the ground and spread it out, but I think we're past that, right? Yeah, good.
Okay, thank you.
But minimally invasive unless you have reason, the monitor has reason to suspect there's something out there.
right now it's 12 inspections. It'd be 12 days on site with an archaeologist watching the excavation, and they try to target where they already did test pits out there, and they found stone flakes in one of the test pits. So when we're excavating that area is kind of when we would focus that monitoring.
And it's the top 3 feet.
They were saying we shouldn't find anything below 2 feet, but getting ship load buy off on that hasn't, we haven't gotten that far yet. So.
Any more questions over here before we continue?
Okay, so there was a couple allowances listed on that summary sheet there. We have a couple more allowances, significant allowances we wanted to talk through with you. So the next major allowance we wanted to talk through is demo the existing plant. So we put a bid package on the street for a turnkey contractor to come in and remove all the electrical mechanical from the inside of the structures, demolish the structures to below grade, and then fill this site in and flatten it out. We did not get any bids. So it's apparently a package that nobody got excited about. Earthwork guys didn't want to do the demo. The demo guys didn't want to do the earthwork. Sladen put a number to it. We do have the capability to self-perform this. But typically there's demo subcontractors out there that are more efficient at scrapping things than general contractors. So what we're proposing to do is to have another bid package that we put on the street closer to when this work happens, because this work happens in 28, for a demo only subcontractor, someone who's really good at coming in and seeing the value of things you're demolishing. So we have a $350,000 allowance in the estimate for a structure demo subcontractor. We've done structured demo subcontracts similar to this successfully on many other projects. We just thought we could get somebody excited, you know, a smaller civil company around here that might want to do it all, but we got no interest. So this is what we're recommending. No changes to design, anything like that. We just didn't find an interested bidder, and maybe when the time gets closer, we could get more interest in it. So. All right, next one. The next one I want to talk about was actually some of the value engineering that did not pan out for us. So last time around, we talked about we had a large concrete digester. It was two-celled, and we went with a more cost-effective size. So we shrunk the size of it, and we also changed it to a glass-fused steel tank. So it's a steel tank with a glass lining on it. We had budgetary prices on that tank, and when we got the final bids, the price almost doubled. So we were surprised by that, and we're not thinking that that's probably the best value for the city anymore. So it undid most of the value engineering. So we went back and we estimated the structural details of the original concrete tank at the revised volume that we designed the steel tank to, and we feel that a reasonable price for the concrete tank of the same size is only $55,000 more than the steel tank. And it's more durable, increased longevity. It's an overall substantially better product for the city long-term. So we would recommend not moving forward with the steel tank for that small of a price difference and actually changing back to a concrete tank. So what that means is we don't have a design for the concrete tank of the size that we would be building. So we would convert the entire structure to an allowance, which puts the money basically holding in the city's hands. And then Kenny D. Jenks would take the 60% design, resize the tank, and complete that design, at which case we would bid it out and present the cost of that tank for the city's decision.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that would affect the odor at all.
No, it's a fully enclosed tank. Yeah, it's got a concrete roof on it, hatches, everything. And it's generally, even though it's a solids holding tank, it's not.
It's aerated, so we weren't planning to odor control that tank in the first place.
Hmm.
But since it's covered, you could do that in the future if you wanted to.
But it shouldn't be really producing much as by the way of odor. This is
No.
right, it doesn't have odor control on it.
Eric, did I understand that correct? That it was reduced from the original size of the original proposed concrete tank? What was what was the capacity difference between the two?
That's about 50%. So it went from 500,000 to 250,000.
Okay.
gallons.
And is it linear, the price? They're like pricing out a 500,000 concrete to a 250,000 gallon concrete is double the price?
Not quite. I mean, close, but the old tank
Gotcha.
had like a center divider wall with two cells in it, which is really nice to have. The new one's just one large tank, no center divider wall. So it's, yeah, not quite half, but.
Okay, thank you.
So these ones that we're presenting, we have incorporated in the pricing because we thought they were the right decision for the city, but ultimately we are looking for concurrence. This is the right decision to make. So please speak up if you want to have more comments about these. So. Yeah. We had two VEs that didn't pan out. Some of you might remember this one. So the admin building, we put it out as a prefabricated package. Typically building something offsite is more cost effective than building it on site. We had one vendor we were working with when we did the value engineering to change it to a prefabricated off-site building and trucked in. That person did not bid. We got two more interested bidders and only one of them turned in. And the price went up $450,000 with the bid we received. So for the price that we received for a prefabricated building, we believe that we can frame it on site for the same price, if not cheaper. So we also had to compromise a little bit on what we were designing because they had restrictions on roof heights and pitch to be able to truck it in. And a couple other restrictions that we had to adhere to. So if we go back to a built-in-place building, it removes those restrictions. We can have a better slope on the roof. Customize it a little more to what, is going to be nice for Chris, and for, we believe, the same cost. So again, unfortunately, this one did not pan out. Now that we see the price for what the vendor's willing to do it for, we don't recommend moving forward with the prefab option. So what we'd recommend is same thing, carrying an allowance for this whole structure, and having the KJ team finish the design for the structure. And we can do design, build, electrical, and HVAC packages. And then we can put all of the framing, because it's a wood frame building, back out to street for bid, and we can target local framing subcontractors.
How do you feel about that, Chris? Is that a good deal? All right.
It's disappointing that the VE didn't pan out, but it's great to be able to get I think a better quality product in the long run, so.
And unfortunately, I don't have answers to why these didn't pan out. We had budgetary prices from vendors and they rose substantially when they actually had to sign their name next to it. So occasionally that happens in this industry. Okay, so we wanted to do a little bit of comparison back to what we talked about at 60%. So at the top there in the September workshop, the number we brought in was 56 million. And then as a result of the workshop, you expressed concern about leaving the old plant as it currently is, and had a strong desire to make sure the demo of that plant and filling that in stayed in this project. So we added that back in, and so that would bring the 60% number that we moved forward with to 57.22. And then the number for the GMP, and that's construction only. So the 56 plus the $2 million for the Kennedy Jenks contract was the 58. So the numbers up there are construction only. So the GMP we're bringing to you today is 57.26. So $40,000 more than the target that we walked out of here in September with. So that didn't happen on accident. It took a lot of hard work. And part of that is some value engineering that we're going to go through here in a little bit, making sure we got good bids, and making sure that we were getting to the target that we told you we could get to. So part of what is incorporated in that 57,260 number is the tariff allowance. That $500,000 did not exist last September. So that's been incorporated now in that number. When we put the bids on the street, the total of the budgetary prices we had versus the actual bids was an increase of $2.6 million. That is inclusive of that concrete digester and that admin building that substantially increased. That accounts for almost $1 million of the cost increase of that 2.5, sorry. Yeah, I itemized those two below because they were two that went very, not the way we thought. And then the proposed value engineering that we did at the GMP, which we're going to go through here in a second. So that was realized there. So we absorbed a little over $2.5 million of increases and still maintained the target price. We kind of went over outreach last time. I just wanted to remind you of what we did between then and now. So we had the local open house in February, allow anybody who wanted to come talk to us. We did, when we went out to bid shortly thereafter, we direct solicited 250 firms. We direct solicit any locals that we know that do this type of work or might be interested. And we also solicit people that do this type of construction for a living. There's a whole kind of group of people that build treatment plants throughout the Northwest. So we invite all of them to the project to make sure that anybody who could want to bid or is capable of bidding on this job knows about the opportunity. We also were mandated to do minority outreach by the funding. So we solicited 118 firms for the minority outreach, and then the newspaper advertisements were placed for the funding requirements as well in the trades papers. We received 125 bids across 63 bid packages. And of that, on the next slide, we'll show you there's a little over $1.1 million going to Estacada local community through subcontracts and supply contracts. And then if you broaden it out a little further to like Canby and Clackamas, that kind of larger circle, there's an additional $5.4 million in awards. Go to the next slide. I left the dollar amounts off of here because we actually haven't notified all these companies. But these are the low bidders that will be receiving awards as part of this project. You can take a look at the list. I won't read all the names, but. And there are some of them in that green category, like Team Electric has some electricians that live here in town and they do the work on the plant currently, the old plant currently, so. Okay. Value engineering, I've said it about 10 times so far. So this is the list of 13 items that we came up with as part of the GMP effort. So always looking for money that you don't need to spend. And at this point, we're not talking major design changes. We're talking opportunities that aren't going to really impact the facility or some things that Chris blessed. So he's thankfully here today to agree that he blessed them. So I'll cruise down the list real quick if you want me to, just high level about it. But the first one there is a weather rating on a panel, basically going to an indoor rated because it's inside, didn't give up anything. Reduce the load rating on the hatches. This is appropriate for the location where they are because they're not in a highway. They're not going to see high speeds. The UV system, again, going from a more corrosion resistant panel to an outdoor rated enclosure. It's not in a corrosive area, so that's appropriate. Number 4 there, deleting the UVT analyzer. That was one of Chris's decisions. It's an optional analyzer. Didn't see the value in it, and it was fairly expensive. Plant water skid, another control panel, corrosion change. Stop logs, that was just something where they came in a lot more expensive. And so for the value, Chris said hosing it out every once in a while was easy. So fine screens, there was something where the fine screens can't pivot out of the channels. So the hoist actually is going to be a little bit in the way. So you're not getting much value out of it. So it wasn't worth the cost. Oh yeah, there's a gate where the chemical totes are stored, and it was a nice louver gate, but it was really expensive, turns out. So going with the typical chain link gate with privacy slats just to screen the chemicals is appropriate. We had a combined control panel for one of the vendors. Combining 2 systems into 1 control panel turned out to be really expensive. So splitting into 2 control panels and reusing the one that's currently on the press, having the local integrator reprogram it, saved quite a chunk of change. Removing the anti-graffiti coatings from the concrete vertical walls. It's within a secured perimeter. There should be no graffiti on those walls. And then those last 2 there, 12 and 13, we've already talked about. I will note 12 is negative because it was an add to the project to go to a concrete digester. It's a little backwards, but the savings are positive and the add is negative. Okay, so moving forward, so we're here today. We're hoping that you like what we have to present to you, and then we would like to start construction in August. So KJ is on track to finish the design in July, and then permitting is looking good for late July, early August, and as soon as the permitting comes through, we will be ready to mobilize. So I believe what we presented to the city in this pricing proposal had a date of August 7th as a proposed mobilization date. And that'll be dependent on the permitting coming through on time. And then, start in August of 25, and then commissioning of the plant in October of 27. That is assuming DEQ's grants the extension, which they're well aware of and on board with. So they're essentially waiting for us to tell them the date when we can be done with the plant to grant you the extension, which is a typical process for DEQ with CMGC contractors. Yeah, and finish up a punch list of the new plant in February. And then once Chris is comfortable with the new plant and never wants to go back, we will demo the old plant in early 2028.
Well, council, you've had a chance to listen to everything presented to you today. How do you feel about this question? Don?
So, I saw on the guaranteed maximum price that it was GMP 1, which implies a 2 or a 3 or a 4, whatever. And so I kind of have 3 questions all related. How many different additional costs are we potentially looking at? And then what's the potential total of that? And then what additional costs of those answered in 1 and 2, what additional costs might we learn if we wait till the next meeting?
So the nomenclature of GMP1 was a kind of a holdover from about 6 months ago. So when we did the value engineering effort on this project, there was also at the same time, there was a holdup with the outfall permitting. It wound up being in FERC jurisdiction because of its proximity to the dam. So the outfall work was removed from the same timeline as the treatment plant, so the treatment plant could move forward. That permitting process getting through FERC for the extension of the outfall is going to take quite a while. And at this point, we're not envisioning that outfall being part of this construction contract. The GMP1 nomenclature was when we thought the outfall was still part of this project and that it wasn't far behind. And we were going to do a GMP1 for the plant and a GMP2 for the outfall. That's no longer looking like a reality. And we're most likely doing just one GMP for construction of the new treatment plant and demo of the old plant. So we can remove that one, and this will be the GMP for this contract. So the outfall work will be deferred for the city. That will still be a project, but it will not be part of this contract. So we don't see there being any additional costs that Sladen is going to bring to this group that we know of. This is the proposal that we're going to build this plant for.
Does that answer your question, John?
Are we going to review the rate impacts before we,
Yes.
I would like to see it.
It's the next
I think
slide.
that'd be- Okay, great.
Is the next slide.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Numbers are kind of small.
Yeah,
Go
it's
for it.
kind of small. So this, it's the same spreadsheet from Steve Donovan. So we just updated the final cost. We haven't updated the rest of the cost drivers, like, the staffing costs and those kind of things. So it's not going to be exact, but this is what we're looking at with, and I rounded it up to 60 million to make it easy for, the rate forecast. Now, this does not include, we went to the state, we're asking for $10 million. I expect we'll get something. I don't know what, but if we get even $5 million, that would drop it. So the red line is the PSU projected growth, which is less than we've been seeing, but kind of we'd like to stay around that area. And that would drop that rate to under $100 if we get 5 million from the state. But right now, that's where the rates are at just for sewer with the $60 million cost.
In case you can't read the fine print at the bottom, the blue line on the top is if we experienced no growth, just stayed right where we're at with the number of ratepayers. The red line in the middle is if we grew by 1.5% per year. And then the green line is like one of our highest years, it was 6.86%. And so that is at that. And I just calculated, we've been doing about 100 homes a year. And so that's 280, 300 people. But if we're going on population, but anyway, I think it would be, I think we're going to fall somewhere between the red line and the green line. The green line is probably pretty aggressive. I don't know that we'll continue to grow at that rate because that was one of our higher rates, but somewhere in between there.
What number of units is the blue line assuming? What's the existing number of units that are being serviced for
It's about 2,000.
2,000?
2,000.
So if we're 100, we're adding 5%.
Mhm.
5% more units a year.
Sorry.
If we're doing 100 houses a year, so
Mhm.
about 5%. Okay.
Yeah. So the blue line assumes that we don't grow at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be just above if the green line 6.86. So if
6.86,
we're doing 100 homes now, so 5%, we're going to be closer to the green line than the red line.
As long as growth continues.
If- Yeah.
And based off of what we're seeing in real time, I think that number is going up from 100. Is that we're seeing some stuff that is going to be happening very quickly. And you know, PSU's numbers have always been very low. And so we had years that were well over 100 units. And then due to COVID and everything, there was kind of a lull in that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we were real close to the green line or perhaps even more.
It's kind of finding that balance, which we can't always control, but having enough positive growth that everybody can contribute, but not an excessive amount that's too fast that gets out of pace with our community. But and as soon as we know what we're getting from the state in this go around, we'll be able to consider that. So, but that's not a sure thing right now. Excuse me.
Any questions on that? Everybody's comfortable? So we're at that magic moment. We asked them to come back. We asked them to fix those numbers to something that is doable. We're here. So tonight was making that decision. Are we comfortable with them going forward at 90?
I am.
I think you've got everybody in the room. First off, I want to say thanks for the local part of it. Pulling in some of the local, nearby and local is essential to the people that live here. As you well know, they all like to be involved and they deserve it. So we appreciate that. And the fact that you actually took a look at the numbers from what we got hit with last time, the shock was outside the ballpark. You've come back with numbers that make sense, that I can understand, that are more factual in what today's market is offering. So I can understand where you're coming from with this. And I think the people can understand this number a lot better. So I thank you for that. Other than that, are there any more questions for? Okay, we want to thank you tonight for presenting, coming out. Chris, we hope you're comfortable with this whole situation. It really depends on if you think we're getting the service, if this building is going to do everything that you think it's going to do, will it?
It will.
Okay, all right.
It's been a good.
City staff is comfortable with everything. You've actually taken the trip. You went through this
Yes.
backwards and forwards.
Absolutely. And I was just gonna say that when you said that didn't happen by accident, I was exactly thinking that same thing, because when we got the bids in, it's been a lot of work and not necessarily on, but everybody's not necessarily on my part. It's the number crunchers over here who've been like going back, checking math, calling back, the bidders and verifying things and, working very hard to get, refining things to get us to the best possible product for the best possible price and value. And so the next step in the process would be in your later under council business, we'll have a vote on this to just approve this GMP and direct staff to come back with a contract amendment. So what we'll come back with is if you, in your packet, it's on page 16, I think, they have this thing in here. And so we've already ordered the long lead equipment. So that and the pre-construction contract that's done. So it would be, we'll come back with just the total construction cost that is not contracted already, which is just over 51 million. And then we also have in the, that'll come back at your next meeting for approval. And then we have in the consent agenda this time, the authorization to go ahead and expand the loan with DEQ at 1% interest to cover the rest of this cost. So we'll get going on that, finishing up the loan. We submitted the SHPO, is it application? Or the requirements that they're asking for.
Yeah.
And it'll take them a couple weeks to review that. Then they have to put it out for public comment for a month. So we won't know for sure for 5 or 6 weeks on that, but it's kind of, everything's coming together, I think. And it's just been a good team effort and with good I think everybody's focused on the same priorities, and we appreciate the feedback that you've given us, helping us to get through this process and pushing us to do better and just do the best that we can. So thank you.
Just understand that that 10 million that we're filing for
Yes.
is not the only money that we will go for. We will keep trying to get more and more to
Mhm.
bring down the cost in this
Yeah.
situation. So
Yes.
don't give
Absolutely.
up on that because
Right.
that'll make a big determination on where we go past that point. So thank you. And
Mhm.
thank all of you for coming in and presenting to us tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for
thank
having
you.
us.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Now we are at citizen and community group comment. I will give everybody a chance to vacate the table before we go on.
Back to. Okay. All right, talk to you later.
Okay, first I have Randy Gilbert. And that's online.
I know she's here, actually.
Oh, she's here.
Melanie.
Oh,
I may
okay.
have misread how to do it. I don't know. This is the first time I've had to ever even speak at one of these, so forgive me because it's new to me. So
No problem.
tell me if I'm doing something wrong or what I shouldn't do. I think you guys are going to hear a little bit more tonight from some other people in the group about the fact that we're actually one of the companies that got to bid with Sladen, and we like to do those local jobs. We live here, we work here. And we had signs up at our daycare where we pay money to have our kids enrolled. And they were taken down. And I know that there's probably some rules about that, some ODOT stuff that I don't really think is ODOT driven. We'll have other people testify as to why that probably wasn't ODOT requiring those to be taken down. But I am here really more to just say, in general, I would like to ask you guys to revisit those rules. I think they're incredibly restrictive. And I was disappointed to see actually one of my competitors had to take down their sign today, or maybe the other day. We need the opportunity to let people know that we exist here. And although we may not have brick and mortar stores down here, it's not in our best interest to have the overhead and profit for our customers, one of which we're hoping is you. I'm thrilled to hear that you guys are going to have the framing for the building at the treatment plant. We were hoping to see that when we came in to originally bid. And so we're going to be thrilled to jump on that and bid that framing structure for you guys. So we'll look for those coming up. But all that being said is that Facebook only goes so far when it comes to making a post in Estacada locals and then having it getting buried by, who got mad at the skate park. And not everybody's on some of the social media. And when you have less than 10 employees and, we're hiring some of the kids that are coming straight out of high school and people that live here, it's important for us to make sure that we have work that we can make sure to provide them with, we're paying their mortgages, our mortgages, and all of the responsibilities that come with that as being employers. And so we would like the opportunity to post our signs in town where appropriate, when on private property, when not interfering with other, as long as we're not, maybe posting something inappropriate, or if we're within a certain design structure. I think we need the opportunity to make our business known. And the jobs that are most beneficial for us are ones that are here. We're here all day long. We're working in Eagle Creek or in Estacada on various people's homes. And we want the people who live here to know that we want to work here. I don't want to have to drive out to Beaverton to get a job. I don't want to, I want to be able to pick up my kids after school. I want to volunteer at Career Day like we have been. I want to continue to take my employees to the Cazadero for their Christmas party. I want to continue to purchase the gifts for our clients as thank yous at the Art Smith and the Mossy Rock. And I want to continue to be able to get off work in time to go roll jujitsu across the street. So all that being said is, I would ask that you guys would revisit those codes. Other people will speak to the specifics of this incident, but to allow local businesses to put their name out there that may not have the brick and mortar, but have access to maybe some private property or a fence.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next I have James Heath.
Good evening, everybody. My name is James Heeb. I'm co-owner of Estacada Timber School with my wife, who's waiting to speak also. I have to say at first, whenever I first got the notice, my first instinct was like, I'm going to fight this. I'm going all in. And gotta, that emotion, because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm trying to help advertise local community businesses. I'm also hosting the Chamber of Commerce in my building. We do nothing but serve the community. We have another community center that's going in, that just got final approval, and felt like we were shut down after already being permitted by the city. I was also later contacted by, who was a gentleman, he's Alan Wilson, the head planner. He went through some of the code with me, and we both arrived at the conclusion that there are some major flaws. I also contacted the state, or the outside advertising sign program, and found discrepancies like within our own Estacada Municipal Code 16.34.06 says all signs of the riverfront commercial zones that are visible from the highway shall be approved by ODOT. I went to ODOT and they said, no, that's not true. They don't, and they only if they're in the right of way. But that's a flaw within the city code. There is I also found out that I'm allowed up to 600 square feet of signage on the property if I want to push with. That's a billboard. I don't want that. I want small signs to highlight local community businesses. Many of these businesses are within some of them a stone's throw, like it's right on Riverfront Drive. People live there, operate businesses locally. It's not some multinational corporation that trying to get advertising. And every single person that we are helping with advertise, they're also a part of our program. We're not just a childcare, we're a community organization where we serve every family and any way we can. And the complications in the code are preventing us from being able to accomplish some of these goals. And ironically, in that put together presentation a minute ago, they're talking about like we can cut costs by doing cyclone fence. No, you can't. You have to change the code because that is banned by the Estacada Municipal Code and Riverfront Commercial. And going around town, I found over 50 different violations of the Estacada Code just driving around. And at first I was like, oh, I'm going to, cause a stink. But ultimately, I don't want to put this on anybody else. I just want to get it fixed. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
Hello, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak. My name is Katie Heeb. I own Estacada Timber School with my husband, just right down the road. We turned in 4 sign permits just recently for local businesses in our community. We had to take these signs down less than 30 days after we got the permits. We were told that someone complained to the city, so we had to take them down immediately. I'm coming to you today because I think this is ridiculous. I love this community. We support all local businesses as much as we can. And there are other local businesses that are trying to do the same thing, get their signs out there, be able to feed their families. And it's frustrating that we were not allowed that same opportunity. If you're going to enforce the code, do it to everybody or don't do it at all. We did everything the city asked us to do. We did all the permitting. I have the permits here. We paid all the fees, but then we're still being penalized. And all we're trying to do is support local businesses. I feel like the city of Estacada needs to get better about supporting local businesses because that's what Estacada is built on. I grew up in Beaver Creek and my family owns several local businesses. And if we don't have local businesses, we don't have a city. And if we don't support people that are here, the local people that care will leave. Thank you.
Eric Sale.
Hello, how are you? Good, it's good to see you all. I wanted, as you guys are looking at the odor standards tonight, I just wanted to bring to your attention and make sure that it was known that in section 8.10.10, number 2, it still has a requirement of 3 separate complaints from 3 separate independent parties reported within a 24-hour period that must identify the same source and address and length of time and be willing to sign a citation. So we still have a untenable, unlikely to ever happen situation. I spoke on this at the last meeting and it's ridiculous, but it's still in there. That's all.
Are we doing, we're doing a rewrite on, aren't we, after we talked about it last week?
So
It just hasn't been done
No, it has.
Yes.
yet. It has.
we had previously required them to be from 3 separate businesses and we removed that. So the example that had been given is there might only be one business that was negatively impacted because the odor was going in that direction. And I mean, that's absolutely true. But again, we did this in consultation with our municipal judge. And so the question is, how much evidence do we need to provide? And our concern was that if it was one person, then that would not be sufficient. And so it could be from the same company. There's no, and if you guys want to change that, then we can.
Just to clarify, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
3 people from one location can make the complaint and that would be sufficient.
Yeah, so if three people from his company all notice this and we're bothered by it and we're willing to sign the statement, that would be sufficient.
It says 3 separate and independent parties.
Right, so like not related parties.
But it's related.
And like, it would be a family member?
Yeah,
Because before indicated from the same location was related when we talked about the service. What we're talking about.
But yeah,
blood related.
but we removed the same location requirement from the code. So we removed that, that requirement for the different locations from the code. It just, it can't be you, your brother and your son.
Okay. All right. John.
So
And that's on the topic for later, if we want to continue the discussion. I don't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say it doesn't need to necessarily be discussed right now, but.
The owner, yeah, discuss it.
It's later, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're gonna come back to it. All right, Jim Moriarty.
All right. Changing topics here, I promise. All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm here tonight relaying the speeding concerns on the 224 of a citizen that lives on Lake Shore. I live on Lake Shore and walk the pathway which leads to Highway 224. I'm greatly concerned about the traffic that has no regard for speed limits. I noticed a few months ago that the quote, "warning lower speed" sign disappeared. It was located near the new timber school, alerting drivers to the speed change from 55 to 40. Although I love the new trees lining the highway, they obstruct the 35-mile-an-hour sign near Elm Road, as well as obstructing a driver's view when they're trying to enter the highway from Wade Street. It's very scary trying to cross the highway unless you go all the way to the light on Broadway. Is there any plan to add flashing pedestrian lights like the ones they have near Ace Hardware Store? Has the city even considered putting up the portable electric signs showing your quote speed versus what the speed limit actually is? Or maybe the photo ticket ban for a few weeks could garner revenue for the county, as well as remind people to be more mindful of speed limits. At the very least, you need to address the speeding on the highway through town by adding more police presence. So upon getting this email with Elena's help, thank you, Elena, for that, I recently submitted to ODOT the concerns of the citizen via the ask.odot@odot.oregon.gov, or you can use the Ask ODOT portal to submit requests. I requested for them to look at the two crosswalks, one at Southwest Avenue and Southwest Wade, two sets of flashing pedestrian lights and pedestrian signage at both of these locations. I also requested a third location that they look at a large tripping hazard on the 211 bridge leaving town, walking over the bridge. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, that's all the speaker request forms I have right now. Are there any online? No. Oh, Shirley's got one. Okay.
This might be off the topic, but as everybody knows, we had a fire on Casadero Court 3 weeks ago, okay? The people are in there working on the house, but the property itself, the burnt bushes, dry grass is not being taken care of by the owner. And it is a very bad fire hazard. I can take the rhododendrons and go like this and stuff just flies. So the city needs to contact the owners and say, clean this up before there's another fire. Because if there's another fire, it's not going to stop at that house. It's going to get both houses on each side. And I've spoken to Kenny about it. And he just says, well, I don't have a lawnmower. So we borrow mine, you know. But they don't seem to be doing anything about it. And the fire department says they can't do anything because it's personal property. So we really need to get on, not just that house, but any house that's been burned. I mean, he was a fool by catching it on fire in the first place with a cigarette. But I mean, we have animals there that go over there, shouldn't be there, but they go there because the way the property is being taken care of. The house won't be done for 4 months. So does that mean the residents at Casadero Court has to sit there for 4 months and keep their fingers crossed this house does not catch on fire again? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sure. All right, I have one more that was added. Nicole Andrews.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Andrews, and I'm speaking tonight to strongly urge the council to appoint Rachel Hoyland to the seat being vacated by Heidi. When Councilman Blevins was appointed, the justification for his appointment over the other candidates was that he shared similar values and priorities as the council member that he was replacing. And the council, along with Mayor Drinkwine, wanted to honor what the voters wanted. And so, as a constituent, I am asking for that same standard to be honored again by appointing someone who clearly shares the values of transparency, community involvement, and a deep commitment to public service that Heidi represents. Rachel is not just qualified, she is overly qualified. With over 16 years of professional experience in right-of-way acquisitions, real estate, and public infrastructure management, she brings a unique understanding of both local and regional development. She currently manages a $300 million portfolio for the Oregon Department of Transportation, overseeing critical infrastructure projects that require collaboration with local governments, fiscal responsibility, public engagement, and long-range planning. This kind of experience is exactly what we need on City Council. Estacada is growing, and we face decisions about land use, zoning, transportation, and how to continue to develop wisely without losing the character of our community. And Rachel has already spent years navigating those very challenges just on a larger scale and with a proven record of balancing competing interests to get things done. And she has a vast understanding of just what makes Estacada so special, the people. However, her understanding of government contracts, budget analysis, compliance, and equitable development will be an asset in shaping policy, reviewing proposals, and making informed and strategic decisions for the future of Estacada. She's also deeply engaged in volunteer work, serving as vice president of our HOA of our HOA Campanella Estates, as well as a foster parent through DHS and an active member of multiple equity and professional boards. She's not just someone who talks about service, she lives it. Rachel has shown time and time again that she can navigate policy, collaborate across diverse perspectives, and bring people together for the greater good. And as a fellow resident and voter, I want someone like that representing my family and I, someone who is thoughtful with a pragmatic voice and who understands systems, but also leads with empathy. I urge you to choose a representative who reflects both competence and commitment and appoint Rachel Hoyland to the Estacada City Council. Thank you.
All right, is that all I have? All right. You've all had a chance to read over the consent agenda. Are there any questions? Do you wish to move anything to council business? If not, can I get a motion on the floor?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we're at department and committee reports. So do any of you wish to speak on your committee or commissions? John?
Yeah, again, the library, I continue to be impressed with the impact and things they're doing in the community. I didn't know that the adult librarian program, they've done 21 events so far, various types. Some of the children's programs are averaging 25 to 30 kids. I just think that's outstanding. The bookmobile they hit, and they're very proud, they hit 2,000 miles on the bookmobile. And I think they've got a year full of data now. They also mentioned that so that they'll actually be able to give us metrics on their outreach and stuff like that. I could go on and on, but it's very impressive, and they're doing a great job over there.
Thank you. Jerry?
I don't know if any of you attended, but the Downtown Estacada Commission had a very successful Uncorked event. Bringing that event back was that was a pretty big deal for that committee. They got a lot of feedback from the community on what they did right and what they could do better. And just expect that event to continue to grow every year. It sounds like they've already made great strides with how the street gets blocked off, how people get the alcohol monitoring is done. So another like I said, another successful event, an event that we lost for a few years and is back. So it's exciting. And then coming up in July, we have the Arts Commission with their Arts at the Creek event, which will be up at Wade Creek Park.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else? Matthew?
Traffic and safety, Chief Mendoza updated that the school SRO, when school is out, will be moved to summertime patrol, national night out. They were talking about having it in the industrial park and then having businesses open house. That'll be the 5th of August, I believe. And then Parks and Rec, B City came to speak to make people more aware of what they're doing in the city. It's on the city council website if they want more information. Talk about shared physical storage was brought up for all the committees. We had talked about buying like fold out signage and stuff like that for communal and just having a place to store it so that all the committees can use them as needed. And then just wanted to bring up concert in the park is starting soon. So look into that.
City manager's report.
Okay. A little slideshow, keep me on track. I actually have 12 slides, so I'll move quickly. All right, first of all, I wanted to give you a little progress report on Eagle Creek Road. On the left side, that's the It's not a great picture, but that's where the Eagle Creek Pump Station is being constructed, and it was on pause for a while because of the water saturating the ground out there, and construction is scheduled to begin this week again, so that'll be moving forward. On the right-hand side, that's Eagle Creek Road, which is open again. It still needs to be paved, so it is very rough. I know speed humps have been popular, and I maybe shouldn't joke about this, but that road will slow you down. So everybody should be cautious, especially driving northbound on Eagle Creek Road. It's obviously not finished yet, but it is open so people can get through there. Just drive with caution. Next slide. Quick update on the splash pad. So far, so good. We do have I think one of the little spray valves is broken, so the guys are figuring out how to repair that. And I'm sure it'll be a learning curve through this first season, but people are really enjoying it. There was a power flicker this weekend. I don't know what caused that, but it caused, our best guess is that that's what caused the automatic timer to glitch. And so Public Works came in and fixed it once somebody notified them that it wasn't working during the hours it was supposed to be working. And so that was taken care of. But people are really enjoying it, and that's fun to see those kids having fun and parents being able to get together. And so next slide. All right, May 31st, a lot happened on May 31st. There was a cleanup day at Wade Creek Park. That is just some of the volunteers. Some of them had already scooted on out before we got this group picture at the end. But I want to say thank you to all the volunteers who came out. They removed 80 gallons of invasive plants and filled several trash bags with trash. And excuse me, there was some before and after photos that I didn't include in here, but check out the city's Facebook and Instagram if you want to see some before and after of the invasives that they were removing. So thank you to all those folks that helped out. And next slide, also on May 31st was Citywide Cleanup Day. So thank you to Aero Sanitary for co-sponsoring that with the city. And that's just a picture. That was probably around 11:30, so close to the wind down time, but I think it was very widely taken advantage of, which is fantastic because definitely we don't need to be accumulating this stuff. We'll just keep our city nice and clean and uncluttered. So next slide. Also wanted to give a shout out to Uncorked. It looked like everybody was having a great time. There was a long day, 11 to 7. And so volunteers came in shifts, and we really appreciate those volunteers. There was a good turnout. The weather was a little cooler, but it was better than being super hot when it's hard to do anything. So it was a very nice day, and I don't have final numbers yet, but I think that it was very much enjoyed. So thank you to Downtown Estacada Commission for that. And next slide. Oh, I spent 2 days up in MacIver Park for the 2025 Northwest Regional Disc Golf Championship Pro Tour. And there's my table there. Had some swag to give away, which we also handed out we tried to hand out at the Whitewater Festival, but it was pouring down rain that week. And that I was up there, it was lovely. And so I didn't have too many people stop by my table, but we'll try it again next year. This was fun because people come from all over the place. They love MacIver Park. It's like the best disc golf course in the state. And people come from all over. I talked to a couple who flew down from Saskatchewan. They came from Saskatchewan. And Christie's food cart was out there. There was another food cart that I didn't recognize and a coffee cart, but so everybody kind of had to come past my table to get to that. And it was just fun to be there, a good vibe. People loved the area. Talked to some people who live, Wilsonville or whatever, around the area, and just was trying to find out what they like about Estacada and invite them on over here because they also like to play at Timber Park. But that was fun. So I spent a couple of days there and just got to promote Estacada. All right, next slide. All right, so this is kind of the biggest portion of my report. I want to talk about unaccounted for water. We were calling it water loss. However, what we're learning is that it's really just unaccounted for water. We are going to rule out ways that we could be losing water, like through leaks, but I just want to tell you what we've done so far. I hope to come back to you with some answers. We don't have a lot of answers yet, but we are powering through this the best we can and making adjustments with all the information that we're finding. So Public Works did manual reads in February to compare with, they usually do a radio read. And we wanted to make sure that those radio reads were reporting back to us correctly. So they went to every meter, did manual reads in February. On May 16th, the master meter at the water treatment plant was replaced to make sure that that is accurate. On April 28th, we met with a rep from the Oregon Association of Water Utilities, and those next bullet points are what we learned from him, that 25 to 33% unaccounted for water is common. And so he was like, this was a good person to talk to because he goes all over the state talking to cities that have this issue. It's common. Very few get to less than 10% water, unaccounted for water. Typically, it goes back to the data. And so he recommended looking at our zero consumption accounts, which we did have a few where they have a water account, but they're not using any water. So why is that? So check into that. So it's really, it's looking at things that don't add up and investigating that. And then next, look at the zero consumption and then look at below average consumption accounts. On the next slide, those are some of the things that we have figured out. The residential meters were okay after the manual read. They matched up well with what we were getting on the radio reads. Our large meters were more problematic. And so we were working on data settings for those. Almost all of those large meters are new. So it's not that like they're old, but there was a change. There was a shift in how they report data. So we're looking at that. And we found an unmetered water connection at the public workshop. So that was metered immediately. It was one that they used to wash things down with, and I don't know why I didn't have a meter all these years, but that was remedied. We found a green space on Curran Creek that was set up in 2018, and the account was suspended, but the water was in use, so we activated that account. So it's kind of little one-offs here and there that we're digging through. So we've checked, this is leading us to check all of the irrigation meters, and that's in progress. We found an irrigation meter on the school property. It wasn't reading correctly, so that has been remedied. And we are reviewing suspended accounts. Sometimes the way the process works, when a property is getting built, the water meter goes in, there's the account set up and suspended. And then if somebody doesn't call in to set it up, then it doesn't get activated. So we need to review that periodically and make sure that those are getting activated. Next slide. What we're going to do next is work on matching addresses on CMAP, which is the county mapping website you're probably familiar with. Match those up with our accounts to verify that we have an account for every place that there is a property that's built. We also are going to contract through a regional effort for water loss identification using satellite imagery. We were going back and forth on that because we weren't sure it was worth the money, but it's turning out that it's only going to be about $18,000, which is well worth it. Even though we're a small entity, they can identify where there's potential leaks, and then we'll go through and ground truth it and make repairs where we need to make repairs. So that's number 3, do those repairs. There are areas, we'll repair areas that are identified by the leak detection. Some of the neighborhoods have copper pipe, and those tend to be problematic for leaks. The mains don't leak. If a main gets a problem, it just blows and you know you have a problem and you replace it. But it's the leaks that are between the service lateral, but before it gets to the meter. Once it goes through the meter, it's on the private side and we're at least counting it. And then people will usually notice that on their water bill and they'll get it repaired. So we're working on that, and we are going to look into adding meters to develop quadrants of town so that we could identify potentially which sections of town we might be having unaccounted for water. So we're kind of hitting at it from all sides right now. It's kind of like a whack-a-mole, and hopefully we'll get it narrowed down to where we can be really more strategic. But right now we're just trying to do the research to figure out what is going on with this. I mean, it's been going on since the data we have is back to the 90s, and it's random. You think if we have leaks, the leaks would be consistent through the year. You know, each month it'd be like relatively we're losing the same amount of water, or it would go up in the summer, be consistently and down, and it's just all over the place. So it's a mystery, and we are determined to solve it. And even though I don't have real great answers to present to you, I wanted to give you an update on what we're working on. Yes.
When they did the manual reads, they did the radio read at the same time. They're
Yep.
not comparing it to a previous month's
Right.
radio reads, right? It's real time,
Right.
manual radio at the same time.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're trying to be more careful now. We used to have the master meter would be read, and maybe it was a couple of days difference where the radio reads were read. And so that could count for, like, you would think it would even out in the end if they're reading them on the same days, but we're trying to make sure we're reading getting the radio reads and reading the master meter so that we're not over exaggerating any unaccounted for water, but it's fine. I would say we're fine tuning. There's things we're fine tuning, but we're also doing a broad sweep to really try to identify what we need to work on. So, and I meant to put a slide in here for what our water usage was since we've had such warm days, today and yesterday, and Saturday wasn't bad, or yeah, Saturday wasn't bad. And I forgot to put that slide in there, but if you go to the city website, right on the homepage, we're tracking every day what the water use is, because if we get to, it's 1.4 million gallons a day, and that holds for 3 days, then we'll put out a notice to please conserve. So typically the water, it'll kind of bounce up and down. And if it goes high and then down, and if it's high for a couple days and then it drops down, then we can recuperate. But if it goes high and stays high, that's going to cause problems where we're going to have to do more extreme conservation. So we want to just kind of keep people aware of what's going on, what the situation is with how much everybody's using. And if we spread that out and kind of ebb and flow, that helps us. But the upgrades at the water plant have been completed, and that takes a little bit of pressure off until we do our major upgrade in a couple of years. So, and then my last slide is for Peter to just talk briefly about however much you want to or don't.
Yeah, so you guys might have gotten the emails related to policies for providing food and drink. I read through the Oregon Government Ethics Commission's guidance. Was about an 8 or 9 page letter with different scenarios, none of which were really on point for what we do. Additionally, I called Sean Brady, who was the Assistant Attorney General who wrote the opinion. We had a really good conversation regarding the opinion, the statutes that are applicable, some ambiguity in those statutes that frankly the legislature should probably fix, and great conversations with staff about our policy. My recommendation is that we pull it, and it's something that staff can handle administratively if you guys direct us to. And I'm going to conform it with what we've learned from this OGC opinion, using the University of Oregon's policy as a model. I've gone through several different policies, and I think that that's the one that's going to get us closest to where we need to be, and just clarify when we can serve food and how we would account for that. So people were acting really strongly to this, and making comments like staff won't even be able to pour water for people. And when you read the opinion, when you read the opinion versus summaries of the opinion by other lawyers, that's not what they're getting at. And Sean, who I've known for a long time, reiterated that. We talked through what we've done in the past. We haven't done anything wrong, but I think it always makes sense just to go back and take a look and verify. So I can do that with the help of your staff. And then the other thing is, you guys got an email from a lawyer last week who didn't copy me. But fortunately it got forwarded to Melanie, and it got forwarded to me on Friday, threatening legal action over our odor regulations. So I responded to that attorney Friday evening, worked with staff to figure out exactly what was going on, who the client was, where we were with this, and then was able to get all the data I needed in order to respond. I had a telephone call with that attorney, Amy Margulis, today. So we got it late enough that we didn't have a chance to notice an executive session. And so what I would recommend, I would like us to have an executive session under the threatened likely litigation executive session, so that you guys fully understand the legal risks to the best of my ability to explain it to you. And before we have this, so We can do it tonight. We could have our first reading tonight and then do the executive session um, prior to the next meeting, if that's what you want to do. But I would prefer that we be able to do an executive session first, just so we understand, you know, the different legal risk and what we'd like to see in the record and maybe other things that could create a bit more legal risk. So that would be and again, anytime you guys get a letter from a lawyer, if you could just forward it to me and Melanie and Sadie. So, and they should not be communicating with you directly. So they should always be communicating through the city attorney versus threatening the mayor and the councilors directly.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
All right, great. Thank you, guys. Okay, we are now at the public hearing, so I will now close the city council and open up the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing to discuss proposed uses of state revenue sharing funds for the city of Estacada. I will ask the budget officer, Melanie, to explain the following.
Okay, so this public hearing is a requirement for the city to receive the state shared revenue funds that were discussed during the budget meeting that was held. And by approving the resolution, the city will receive approximately $190,000 from those funds.
Okay. Do I have any request forms? Okay. Are there any questions or comments from council? Okay. I will now close the public hearing and reopen the city council. And can I get a motion for resolution 2025-008, a resolution related to the municipal services state shared revenues?
Are we doing them separately?
Yeah.
So moved.
Okay. Do I get a second?
Second.
First and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Great. Thank you, guys. Yeah, we'll now close the city council and open the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing to discuss the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for the city of Estacada. Melanie, I will have you
Okay.
explain that.
Yes, I will keep this relatively short because I gave a long presentation at the budget committee meeting. If anybody's interested in reviewing that whole presentation. But I wanted to just share that the attached budget was approved by the budget committee on May 13th. And Oregon budget law allows the council to increase estimated expenditures in a fund over the amount approved by the budget committee up to 10% of the fund. That's the limit that would be set if there were any changes that you were wanting to make. So you'll see the budget presented there. And I wanted to comment that the budget committee, that there was a proposed budget given to the budget committee. They discussed and they modified that, and that's what's coming to you as the approved budget. And they chose to take some of the ending fund balance, which I didn't write this in my staff report. I probably should have explained it better there, so it's in writing. But we had an ending fund balance that was more than sufficient. And with the large projects that the city is doing right now, carrying over a little extra is not problematic. It's actually not a bad idea because you never know, when if we're just running on a regular operating schedule, you're pretty sure, what's going to happen. But we're doing some large projects, so carrying over a little extra is not a problem. However, the budget committee was recommending taking some of that and applying it towards the council priorities of I&I, which is repair to our sewer lines and benefits our sewer plant. That is a priority. It's a priority for DEQ that we continue to do this. We do some every year, but this really will allow us to do more. And I double checked with our engineer, with Public Works Director, and they felt they could manage that. And then also they increased the amount that was going to our water loss or water unaccounted for water program to make sure that we're pushing that forward and we have the funds that we need to work on that priority. And those were very good recommendations. When you're talking about ending fund balance, when you spend that down, it takes a while for it to accumulate again. So you wouldn't want to start a new position, like hire a new employee position that's going to have ongoing costs with that, or a new program that's going to have ongoing costs. But doing things like applying it to these priorities, that's a phenomenal use of that. So anyway, just wanted to call out that was a change that was made. And then one thing that the council does that budget committee doesn't do, budget committee approves the overall budget and the limits on that. But the city council, actually the city charter states, the city council must authorize the range of compensation of city employees as part of the annual budget approval. So you also have in your packet the 25-26 salary scale, and the approval of the city budget will include approval of that salary scale as presented. We're adding a park supervisor, and we're removing a Main Street manager from we don't have that exact position anymore, so we're removing that. And then we're adding a communications and outreach position also on the classified scale. And once the budget is adopted by the council, the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget and the salary scale will take effect on July 1st. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. But other than that, I present the budget for adoption.
Okay, any requests? No. All right, are there any questions from council before we move on? All right, I will now close the public hearing and reopen the city council.
I move to approve resolution 2025-010, a resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations, imposing the tax, and categorizing the taxes for the 2025-2026 city budget.
Second.
All right, first and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Now we're moving on to council business. First on council business, I have the GMP approval for the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, so we held the workshop prior to the public comment and the regularly scheduled agenda. So that should be fresh in your mind. And during that meeting, the council reviewed the GMP. In order to move forward with the project, council's approval is required to update the city's contract with Sladen. So there is a recommended motion unless there's any other questions or things that have come to your mind since we wrapped up that discussion earlier.
You have the motion.
Got it. I move to direct staff to develop a contract amendment with Sladen Constructors, Inc. for the guaranteed maximum price and wastewater treatment plant project construction.
Second. First and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, resolution 2025-009, a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2024 and 2025.
Okay.
We've already pretty much done that.
This is, so you approved the budget for coming. This is an adjustment to the current budget that we're in. And just to explain that for anybody listening, the city has processed 375 building and electrical permits. That's not new home permits. That's all of the permits that come through altogether between last July until present. And that is more than we budgeted for because we bring in revenue when people pay for those permits, and then we pass on part of that revenue to Northwest Code professionals who we contract with. So in order, we could receive it, but we can't expend more than the budget allotment. So this is a supplemental budget that will affect this year's budget that we're currently in. Staff estimates that at the pace that we're at, there'll be an additional $135,000 in building permit revenue, which will also increase the expenditures for contractual services in the building department and the general fund. So this is will add $135,000 to building permit fees in the general fund, and then it will also add $135,000 to contractual services as an expenditure. So it's a balance out, but will keep us within the legal limits for this year's budget.
Okay. John.
So I had a question about the building electrical permit fee. Is that a straight pass-through fee, or is there revenue for the city?
There is revenue for the city. Do you want to address that a little bit, Sadie? I can't remember what the exact percentage is.
Yeah, we pass along 75% and keep 25.
That helps us fund the staff and the technology that we have here as we're processing those.
Okay, great. Any other questions? All right. You need a motion on that?
Yes.
I move to approve resolution 2025-009, a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Second.
Okay, first and second, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next I have ordinance, hold on. Ordinance 2025-005, an ordinance amending Title 5, business licenses and regulations of the Estacada Municipal Code.
Okay, do you want to do this one?
I can,
Alright.
I can do this one. So
Summary.
we had some discussions last time, specifically wanting to address issues related to fundraisers and Girl Scout cookies and those kind of things where people aren't businesses, but they're out there raising money. And so we did update the language to address that. Also, while we were evaluating this, we realized there were some things included in this title that did not make sense, such as amusement device tax, which we have not collected. I don't know how long that's been in the code. There was also a ordinance regarding public dances. So we've taken those sections out too.
And the permit for the garage sales that
Yes.
is not unnecessary.
All right. John,
So on the business license fee notice of objection section, it removes the board, which is 3 counselors and 3 business owners, and then it designates the city manager as the final arbiter. And I just wanted to point that out. It was taking the counselors out of that process.
Can you state what number that is, please?
It is 5.04.080, notice of objection. Yes. So generally speaking, something would go to the city manager and she would review it. And then if there was continued issue, it would come before the council.
I'd review it to make sure that whether they're accurate, that they do not need a business license based on our code, or that they actually do. And then if they wanted to object to my determination, they'd have to come to you.
so it still goes before the council.
Yeah, it doesn't state that there. But I think it is more efficient to have staff review it versus every time come to the council, although it doesn't happen very frequently.
How often has that happened since you've been here? How many times?
I don't think I've ever had that happen, except for recently we found like one category of businesses that weren't licensed. And they said, yeah, we've never had to have a license because of our business type. And we can't find that anywhere that it says they shouldn't have a license. So we're going to require a license according to our code. And I suppose if they wanted to disagree, then they could come to you. But I haven't had anybody actually disagree with the code.
Council? Are you all comfortable with that?
I move to approve ordinance 2025-005, an ordinance amending Title 5, business license and regulation of the Estacada Municipal Code.
Second.
Okay, first and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. All right, we got ordinance 2025-006, an ordinance amending Title 8, health and safety of the Estacada Municipal Code.
This is the one that Peter was recommending to hold off on for 2 weeks. But if you've read what we're proposing, if you see anything that you would like us to change before we come back in 2 weeks, I mean, I think that would be fine for them to share any changes based on what we're proposing this based on the feedback we got from you last time. So if you would like to propose any others.
Were you wanting us to wait on? I thought what I understood you to say was the first reading's okay, have an executive session before the second reading, or was your advice to?
That's an option that we could do. My preference would be to continue to the time certain, which is the next regularly scheduled meeting, so that we can do the executive session before you as a council have conversations related to the ordinance because those conversations could make
Mhm.
litigation more or less likely.
So, so Colorado was the first state to legalize recreational marijuana, and I actually found out that Washington did the same election. And so I figured they've probably had time to develop some kind of regulations. And so I looked at Denver's, and this one's dated January 12th of 2017. And it was interesting, just several points. I'm not going to deep dive on this, but regarding this governing nuisance orders, the applicability section, it was interesting to note that it was applicable to, and there were 3 categories: facilities that emit odorous contaminants, and they had a measurement level. And then facilities about which the department receives 5 or more complaints. And then the third, and these were either or, it wasn't like you needed to do all of them. The third was facilities that fall within the following regulated industries. And it lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different industries, but it specifically lists marijuana growing, processing, and manufacturing. And so, and then it had an odor control plan template. So I looked at that, and there's one specifically for marijuana infused products. And it's like a 3-page worksheet, I guess, that someone goes out there. It looks like you're maybe familiar with it. And so going through this, I mean, the facility floor plan, specific odor emitting activities, phase, time, length when it happens, procedural activities, staff training, record keeping, that sort of thing. Obviously, you've seen it. And so reading this, I feel really confident about what we're coming up with. And so, and then there's a whole penalty or a section on penalties and a big graph and all that kind of stuff. And so I guess, and then finally the comment, I thought we did talk about, the number of complaints it would take to initiate some kind of official like checklist thing. So I guess my questions are, did that change in the writing? And then based on this, do the facilities, the industries in that area, do they already have existing odor control plans?
Yes, so I can address all that. Of all the regulations that I looked at, the 2 that we looked at, the 2 that we borrowed most heavily from were Denver, and then 5-county area in Seattle, so the Seattle-Tacoma area. So again, those were fully vetted by obviously the state of Colorado, and then by that air quality, 5-county air quality. So we pulled that from both. We've adjusted down because Denver's a bigger city. So like the number of complaints, we went from 5 to 3, and that's in consultation with our municipal judge. And did other tweaks that are more Estacada centric, because in that my recollection is it regulates dog food and other things that we don't have anyone making here. So yeah, we did a very thorough kind of look at how other jurisdictions are doing it, as well as what other jurisdictions have been involved in litigation where they haven't been successful, and kind of best practices and what to avoid. Our code requires them to have filters and a ventilation system. That requirement went into the code after some of them were set up. We have is it the annual license where they verify? Right. So on the annual license, they'll say if they have a system and we'll also say whether they've changed the filters. So we, in the past, have relied upon their self-reporting. That is no longer the case. So as we've changed this, one of the things that we're doing is we're going to have an annual inspection by right, so that we can independently verify that their system is working and that the filters have changed. We have, and that's not in this section. That's in a separate licensing section that is related but not part of this. So I feel confident in, I feel very confident defending what we wrote. And as if you want to tweak it, if you want to tweak the 3 unrelated parties, we're happy to incorporate that. But I would say that as a general rule, if we have litigation threatened, I like to be able to have an executive session where I can, even more candidly than I am now, describe our legal risk. Sometimes there is some legal risk, and I do not want to flag that for a future opposing counsel by acknowledging that there might be some, and I'm not acknowledging there is any weakness in what we've drafted, but I wouldn't want to ever, to the extent that there could be, I would never want to say that in an open session, because it's basically flagging a legal argument for the opposing counsel.
The way I remembered it, John, was that there was still going to be the 3-person rule to meet the needs of the feedback from the municipal judge, to meet the standard that he needs for it to be enforceable, but that we removed the language that it had to be from 3 different locations, so that if the wind is going towards one location, that 3 people from that one location, that was the way I remember the whole conversation. Was I don't think that anything changed from the discussion we had and what was written. It was 3 people when we ended the conversation. It was just 3 people from, it had to be 3 independent people, but it could be from one location, is the way I remember the discussion going. I don't remember anything changing in it.
So I guess after reading this, my question is, there are certain industries identified specifically that require an odor control plan to operate. And do we have that?
So we do, but there's some that have come in. There were some that were constructed before that. And so there wasn't the inspection that occurred. So what we've done now is that it will allow on an annual basis the inspection versus like probable cause for going in. So we are requiring the plan, and we've also given ourselves a vehicle to allow the inspection on an annual basis to verify that that plan is taking place, in addition to if there's an incident like this, that inspection can happen then as well, to make sure that someone might have a filtration system and might not be utilizing it. We became aware of other things, people putting product or clippings in dumpsters and the dumpsters being outside and not contained. So odor coming off of that, not having double doors inside. So if they push out the product, it's getting the full odor from that. So we've learned a lot, and so that we can make sure that these folks have even better plans going forward that meet the needs of their neighbors. And that's the goal in all this. The goal is not to punish people. The goal is to make sure that people are being good neighbors and are not making it harder or more difficult for their neighbors to do business, or for the employees of their neighbors who are affected by the odor. And that's why we're doing this. And again, the idea was to give ourselves as many tools as possible in order to be able to utilize them. And hopefully we wouldn't have to utilize any, because hopefully everyone will be in full compliance and using best practices.
I just want to, John, that section that's Peter's talking about is not in Title 8. It's in Title 16. And
Yeah.
so that's why you don't see it in your packet, because it's in a different section of the code.
And the business license vehicle, being able to use that as a vehicle or something to put in the tool belt addresses businesses that are grandfathered in, that weren't, that the code wasn't applied to because they were done prior to the requirements for the filtration. But since business licensors are renewed annually, putting the requirement into that we're able to catch if there were ever a pitfall, like something that got missed, code amendment went in mid-year, we can address that through licensing instead of through the code to capture those ones that were there prior, is my understanding of it.
That's all the questions.
How did you want that to read if we wanted to stay or put off to the next?
If you want to continue it to a time certain, which would be the next regularly scheduled Estacada city council meeting, and then we don't have to renotice it.
Okay.
I move. I move, excuse me.
Okay, move it to the next.
Move to the next meeting.
All right,
I second.
all right. Then first and second, all those in favor of moving it?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So moved. All right. Now we're at the second consideration for ordinance 2025-007, ordinance amending sections 9.12.040, obstructing passageways of the Estacada Municipal Code.
This is just a second reading, and so unless any other information has come to light, it would just be a motion and vote.
Okay. I get a motion on the floor, please.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-007 and ordinance amending section 9.12.040, obstructing passageways of the Estacada Municipal Code.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. Second. First and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now we're at the city council vacancy appointments. Are all the candidates in the audience today? All right.
Yeah, Rachel is here and Melissa was unable to make it because she's at work. And I do not know who Casey is.
Okay,
Or online.
so we have one
I
here.
think we just have Rachel here.
All right, all right. Well, I'd have them all speak, but they're not here.
Yeah, Rachel did request to speak, I think.
All right, want to step up to the mic? You go ahead and do it to it.
I apologize if I start choking. I'm recovering from a respiratory virus and so I have to catch my breath.
Oh, okay.
But
No, no
I
problem.
signed up in case there wasn't an opportunity.
Okay.
Is the microphone on? Okay, I'm afraid to touch it just.
Yeah.
Just in case there wasn't an opportunity to present myself or if there wasn't going to be a Q&A.
Okay.
So, but I am Rachel Hoyland, one of the 3 candidates that put in. I am small town girl turned big town girl turned small town girl. My roots are in a lot of small towns like Vernonia, Oregon, the Sierras, namely Greenville. So the small town community vibe is definitely something that I'm very passionate about, and is the reason that I moved to Estacada, because Estacada had all of the beautiful nature, the smiling faces, a lot of events that I've heard of and attended over the years. And so I decided that this is where I wanted to plant my roots forever, ideally, unless you guys kick me out. So that's who I am. If you have any questions about the application answers I submitted, happy to answer. I know that there wasn't an opportunity to submit resume or cover letter with it, but I believe some of you have seen it for the budget committee application process.
Okay. Do any of you have questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Okay.
So we've been incredibly fortunate to have the institutional knowledge that Councilor McElroy has brought to the table. And we desperately need more of that, I feel, especially when it comes to navigating something like ODOT and advocating for infrastructure of our growing city and that we really need. And I do believe that Rachel Hoyland would be a clear asset in that regard. I believe she has the skills and experience and values that would serve this council and this city exceptionally well.
Thank you for your comment, and we'll take a minute. Okay, you've all had a chance to read over the candidates. Do I have a motion on the floor?
I move to appoint Rachel Hoyland to serve the remainder of Councilor Prokop's term on city council. I think that, well, should I save for discussion or can I just discuss it now?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I've been through every single appointment. I think that we've done a, I don't want to say a disservice because it's turned out pretty good, but I think we need to reinforce the volunteers that we have in our in our government, that we do have their back, and this is a way Rachel has she's served on the budget committee, and I think that we've in the past we've gone away from that. We haven't really reinforced our committee members that we have their back by when they apply to be on city council, they've all been rejected. So I think that appointing Rachel with her background and her experience, and then also the fact that she has already proven that she contributes to this community by serving on a government committee, I think that this is the right choice for the city of Estacada.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote on this.
Counselor Blevins?
No.
No. Counselor Dolzall?
No.
No. Counselor McElroy?
No.
Counselor Metcalf?
No.
Counselor Prokop?
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush?
Yes.
Mayor Drinkwine?
No.
Motion fails.
Okay. We get another motion on the floor.
Move to nominate Melissa Hill.
Second.
Okay, first and second, roll call vote.
Counselor Blevins?
Yes.
Counselor Dolzall?
Yes.
Counselor McElroy?
Yes.
Counselor Metcalf?
Yes.
Counselor Prokop?
No.
Counselor Tenbush?
No.
Mayor Drinkwine?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. We are now at the citizen and community group comments for the second. Do I have any?
No.
Okay. And we want to thank everybody for applying for the position and hope you keep applying if we have vacancies. So thank you for that. We have mayor and council reports and comments. So I will start off with you, Jerry.
I probably shouldn't. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, staff, for another well put together packet, but I'm just going to keep it at that.
Just want to thank everyone for coming out. Thank you to the staff for all the work they've been putting in with the wastewater treatment facility. I'm excited to see that moving forward and solving some of the issues that the community's having. Appreciate everyone coming out. Thank you.
I want to share my deep disappointment in the council's decision to not appoint someone with the kind of governmental experience that our city urgently needs. I sincerely hope that Rachel considers running in 2026 because I believe she has the skills that is needed for the city. Tonight, as I say goodbye to this role, I want to take a moment to talk about something that I believe is essential to public service: humility. Humility is often misunderstood. It's not weakness, and it's certainly not self-doubt. It's a quiet strength. It's knowing your limits, owning your mistakes, and being open to learning from others. It means leading with empathy, listening before speaking, and always remembering that this work is never about personal glory. It's about service. Over the last 2.5 years on council, I've seen what happens when ego and passion takes the wheel from both this council and its constituents. Leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about making space for others and elevating ideas bigger than yourself. I encourage those on council, humble yourselves. Stay grounded. You can be compelling and inspiring without being self-important. In fact, you'll lead better for it. I also want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to the people who stood beside me through this journey. To the city staff, I can't thank you enough for the wisdom, patience, and guidance that you've shared with me over the last 2.5 years. Your dedication to this community is evident in everything you do. You are the quiet backbone of this city, and I've learned so much from working alongside you. And to Jerry Tenbush, Vincent and Danielle Belomo, Mike Anderley, Nicole McMerrick, Aaron Smith, and Jenny Strickland, thank you. Your encouragement, your honesty, and your belief in me gave me the strength to keep showing up even on the hard days.
which today was. You reminded me why this work matters and what it means to truly advocate for a community. To my husband, Brian, thank you for your unwavering support and patience. I hope I've made you all proud, and I hope I've served in a way that reflects the values we share: humility, integrity, and a deep love for this community. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and I'd like to thank everybody for applying. You know, one thing I'd like to talk about is that it's graduation coming up this Saturday, and I just want to congratulate the 2025 graduates, excuse me, in advance for their hard work, and just wish them well going forth with whatever endeavor that is. For some of them, college; for others, career, academics, and athletics. What, you know, just whatever that future is. Know that the community stands behind you, and we support you, and we're excited to see you go and represent us going forward as you step into the next venture of your life. Dream big and don't waste it, please. Do not waste it. I was at Uncorked, and I thought it was a very lovely experience. It was very cool to see some of the members of the community out there and about. I would love to see more participation from the members sitting at this panel. As far as not seeing a ton of involvement, that's something I think we could all do better at. I've had to audit myself in that area as well. So I'm just going to call counselors to please join us more on these events and show face to show the community that you're there to be approached and answer public comment when you're not behind the podium as well. I think that that's important. I'd like to give a huge shout out to that committee for putting that on. I know Heather Randall was running around relentlessly the last couple of days there, and all the volunteer staff. And I know that Sherry and all that entire group, Jerry, your entire committee worked so hard to put that on. And I just, you know, it dawned on me how cool it is to see our community doing stuff and together, right? In the unity, peace, and humility together. So I thought that was really cool, and I want to see more of that. And I'm encouraged by it, along with the splash pad. I would say that the other comment I have was on the speed bumps or speed humps. I love seeing it. I think that we missed on that. I will save that for private conversation, but I would like to see some consistencies addressed with that. I think before we get into that too much, like I said, I think that with the speed humps, I love to see it. I would like to make sure that we're consistent across the board on distances and where we put them, and so that we can enforce this uniformly across the city as it goes, and not kind of just adjust as we go. I'd like to emphasize safety forward, as I think the council put in its priorities. And I think that there's just some stuff there that we could discuss and look at in a further meeting. And then on the Parks and Recs thing, I was unable to make that meeting this month, but I've been walking around different areas of the community to try to be pointed and just to look and be involved. And on the PG thing, I'd love if we could reach out to PG around Timber Park. I know that Mr. Belomo spent a ton of time and energy in trying to get the ivy off the trees and the invasive vegetation. I noticed as I was walking there that there is ivy and invasive vegetation all over the trees around PG's property. So if we could maybe reach out to work with that, maybe Parks and Recs would help us with that too.
Good. Uncorked I was worried about Uncorked. Actually, I was doing yard work, and then the weather came in, and I thought everything was going to blow away, but it ended up fully participating. I was so gratified to see a lobster roll truck. That was awesome. And then I fully participated. All my tokens were gone, and I'd love to see more vintners out there, of course, but that was really nice. And then with the down at the portal, I was able to get rid of a barbecue that's actually the same age as my middle kid, mid-30s. So thank you very much. And then I had 3 items. One, I am interested in pursuing an additional FTE for law enforcement above and beyond the plans that we have already. I know we've talked about different staffing models. One is response time, one is per population. I took a look at a report, an analysis of police department staffing. How many officers do you really need? And they really had 3 questions. It was, how many officers are assigned to patrol? what is the workload level of those officers on patrol, and how much time is expended handling a call for service. And so I'd be interested in those and potentially pursuing an additional FTE for law enforcement ahead of schedule. Secondly, I'm very interested in maintaining city staff at committee meetings. My own personal experience, they're a vital resource during the meetings. Every single time I was asking city staff questions, that sort of thing. I also feel that it's a direct connection at a different level with city staff. I think there's real value in having city staff in those meetings. And if it means down the road that we need to, I heard your comments earlier about continuing obligations, but you know, if there's an opportunity for an additional half FTE or something like that down the road, I'd be interested in that. And then finally, I'm very interested in fast tracking family-friendly projects. We talked about that before with the splash pad and stuff. But things like, you know, down at the Riverside, extending that walk that's so nice and be able to extend that even farther. You know, what are the opportunities? You know, we're going to have that restaurant going in there that's going to be family friendly and it's going to look real nice. And I'd like to be able to support that with family friendly things to do down there, whatever that looks like. And also in addition to that, also with all the neighborhoods over on the north side, you know, are there opportunities? I don't remember looking in the plan, but are there opportunities for be it parks or whatever, but just closer to those population centers as well. And then finally, just thank you for everyone that showed up and thank you for your hard work. Appreciate it. That's it.
I'd like to thank staff and council, and I appreciate you, Heidi, for serving on council, and thank you members of the audience for coming. The only thing that I think was missed was what is going on with the signs, and I'd like to hear more, get more information about that, because we do have a lot of small businesses in town, so they need to be supported, and that's all I got.
Okay, I'm gonna reserve my time tonight. Just thanking staff for everything they brought tonight and the audience for being here tonight. So thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.